Does anybody really slurp coffee like that? However, what's up? As you just saw from that opening sequence there, we are talking today about epic B-roll segment, but with just the iPhone, and can you shoot it by yourself? Because I shot that sequence by myself with just the iPhone, and I think it turned out okay. What do you think? Let's get into it. Anyway, first and foremost, welcome to Creative Tech Lab. My name is Leo. This is a YouTube channel to accompany our website, creativetechlab.com, where we do talk about all things creative. Right now here on the channel, a lot about run and gun and mobile filmmaking. So if it is that you're into any kind of like mirrorless cameras, mobile cinematography with the iPhone, or smaller mirrorless cameras like the RX100, A6400, and eventually whatever else comes out from Sony, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. You will not be disappointed, and that would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's jump into what we're talking about today. An epic B-roll segment by yourself with just a cell phone. So since this phone has been out, I've done a couple videos. Huge shout out to everybody that's watched the Filmic Pro video that I did, the cinematic 4K test. That video has done really well, greatly appreciated on my part. However, I did want to do an epic B-roll segment with this phone. I had something particular in mind with the wife, but she has been super busy and traveling all over the place, and we do have 2 small children, so it's been hard trying to just find the time to actually niche that down and actually get it done. But then after thinking about it for a little while, I was like, I wonder if I could do one of these segments just by myself. And then the more I thought about it, the vast majority of people that are looking to this as a great content creation tool, which it is, are probably going to be using this by themselves as solo creators. So the question is, would you be able to create something like this as a solo creator? And the reason I think this is important is because a lot of times you watch these epic B-roll segments by, say, a James Matthews or Daniel Schiffer, or now Peter Lindgren, who just crossed 100,000 subscribers. Shout out to Peter, huge inspiration to anybody here on the platform. But a lot of times you see these B-roll segments and they look good just as standalones, but I think they can also serve a good purpose in terms of being storytelling tools. So if you're telling a vlog, and much like I just did with this segment here, if you have a vlog and you mention coffee, or you say you're gonna get some coffee out the Keurig real quick just to spruce yourself up for the morning, like I just kind of did, then you, instead of just showing the coffee being brewed just real quick 2-second clip in 24 frames per second, you could add something like this, which may seem a little over the top, but these are the little things that can help spruce up a vlog every once in a while. So I think this was important to show that you could do this by yourself and get it done, and something that you could place in to have an actual use case and not just something that stands on its own. All the shots were shot in 4K 60. The phone does do 120 frames per second. However, it only does that up into 1080p, and while 1080p is completely fine, that's what I shot the last B-roll segment is on the RX100. On the much smaller sensors here on the iPhone, I think a lot of times on small sensors, it's just better to use the highest resolution that you have to, so you could get better image quality there. So we did 4K 60. Because of that, we also, the movements that I did with the phone were just a little bit more deliberate and a little bit slower, because you can't slow it down as much as when I shot the RX100 epic B-roll segment. Link up here if you've never seen that one. My movements were a lot faster in that one because you could slow the footage down even twice as much as you could slow down 60 frames per second. So that's the only thing there. And then we used the native app. Filmic Pro I will use eventually, but the features in it are just not ready yet. So that's something I'll get into here at the end of the video. And then because I was shooting by myself, I couldn't really see the framing exactly when it is I was shooting myself, or my hands, or whatever it is I was shooting. So I used the wide angle lens camera in order to make sure I got everything in frame. And then because we're using 4K in post, we can always scale in and reframe a little bit as much as possible to get the shot done. All right, so the whole thing, I had to keep it simple, right? If it's something that you're just gonna be putting in a vlog, you don't wanna do too much advanced shooting, too much advanced editing, any of that stuff. So the whole thing comprised of about 8 or 9 shots or so, after some of them were chopped up into multiple shots. And again, nothing overly complicated. I just wanted to keep the steps in terms of what are the actual steps in terms of me making a cup of coffee in the Keurig. So that's opening the drawer, that's pulling the cup out, that's opening the Keurig, putting the pod in. The only thing extra that I added in there was the toss of the pod, which sometimes when I'm bored or just walking around the house or in a particularly good mood, I do kind of twirl it around, but that shot was a little bit more complicated than it needed to be, but it did help. It was a good, again, part of a good experiment. And then watching the Keurig actually brew coffee in slow motion. The other shot that was a little bit more complicated was I did want to try and test out the waterproof nature of the iPhone. So I did try and get the coffee dripping onto the actual lens, which we'll get into here a little bit. And then the final shot was just a hero shot there. So here are the shots here as we go through it. The opening shot was just me opening the drawer. That one became, the only problem there was the drawer was sticking a little bit, so it was hard to make a complete fluid movement. But once I figured it out, it was just me following my hand up to the drawer, pulling the drawer open, and then you speed ramp it up, color grade it a little bit, and you get what you get. And then at the end of each shot, I tried to swipe out in a particular direction. If I swiped out in that direction, I swiped into the next shot in that direction. So on the first shot, we swiped down, so we swiped down into the next shot, and then I pick up the pod and swipe out of that shot. And then the most complicated shot of the entire thing was me throwing the pod up in the air. And when I initially started the first two shots, I was using my right hand to follow my left hand because I am right-handed, so the movements of the camera was being done with the right hand. However, I did find I was trying to concentrate on throwing the pod up in the air, moving the camera, catching it, and then swiping out again. Did come a little bit too complicated for me trying to do that with my left hand, so I did have to switch hands. And then, but in terms of the entire movement, it didn't have to be super complicated there. I just tilted the phone up as I shot it, as I threw it up in the air, and then caught it, and then swiped out again. So once it is that I tried it a couple of times, maybe more than a couple, maybe 2, 3, 4. Once it is that I figured it out there, what the actual movement was, 2 or 3 more tries after I figured out the movement, and then we had it there. So then the next couple of shots after throwing it in the air was kind of simple. The next one is just of me swiping back in, opening the Keurig, placing the pod into the Keurig, and then closing, swiping out of that, and then swiping into the next shot. I was supposed to do a shot of me pressing the Keurig, but because I had one hand on the phone already, I decided to just do a slight pushing into the blinking button, which kind of hints to the fact that that's what's supposed to come next. And then the actual next shot is of the coffee brewing, which is kind of shot a little bit out of order. So the next complicated thing was me trying to get a quote unquote creative shot, or just a creative angle of the coffee brewing. So I wanted to get the phone right up under the Keurig and then have the coffee brew down onto the lens. The iPhone is liquid proof and waterproof, and they've talked about it for the last couple of years that it's supposed to be able to withstand things like coffee spills, beer, salt water, all kind of different liquids, not just water. So I kind of wanted to put that to the test here, and it's something that you could get a little bit more creative than you can with a traditional camera. Like even the small camera like a RX100 is not able to get wet in any way, shape, or form as far as I know. So I wanted to put that to the test. The problem that I was having though is that I didn't want to get black coffee all over my kitchen. So eventually what I did was pull the Keurig all the way out to the edge of the counter and then make sure that it was dripping down into this little bowl that you see here. And then I needed to get light up under the Keurig, so I used a little small ML9 light from Aperture, shine that up under there to get some light, and then turn it on, hit it to brew, put the coffee under there. It did kind of splash all over the place. I was so nervous about making a mess that I didn't completely film that entire process. But as you can see, it turned out here. The one other problem that I did have though, once I got it into post, was that the angle that I actually put the camera in was flipped, so I had to rotate it, and then I accidentally had a keyframe for something else. I think I had scaled in, but I keyframed it instead of it just being static. So then when I did the rotation, it was also keyframed, and that's why you see it kind of just flip there, and I just kind of left it in there because I thought it worked. So it kind of added a little bit more dynamic look to the shot, leaving it in there. The framing wasn't 100% perfect, but I think it kind of worked there, and it worked on the beat, so I felt like it was just meant to be. And then the next shot was just of the coffee brewing, and I did a pan down shot there all the way past the counter. And then once I looked at that, I got the idea, especially once I got it in post, that would work as a transition to the final shot, was the pushing. And the reason that transition worked because I panned down all the way past the counter, and the counter came up through the entire frame. So I just did a draw mask transition onto the counter, so as the counter comes up, it reveals the next shot and the pushing, the quote-unquote hero shot, and then that was it. That was my epic B-roll segment. And then as far as sound design, usually when you see these epic B-roll segments, what really sells it is the sound design. I didn't go overboard. Actually, I didn't do much sound design at all. The reason for that was that if it is that you're going to be using this in a vlog or something, you really don't want to spend 2 hours editing all the sound on a vlog. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I was trying to show something that you could get done as quickly as possible. So all I really added was some whoosh sounds onto the transitions and the speed ramps. And then I also added maybe just the dripping of the coffee pouring into the cup. And then that was kind of it. And this is kind of what you get. A quick color grade there. And I did add a little bit of motion blur as well. I'll drop links to where I found those motion blur plugins. Did add a little bit of motion blur because you are shooting with a native app and you're not necessarily getting 180 degree shutter speed there. You're just kind of getting whatever the iPhone gives you as close as possible. So there was some blur. I did add in a little bit of blur and then a little bit of color grade, and then this is what you got. So I will leave you with the final shot here, but if this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, please go ahead, drop it a like, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. There's a lot more stuff like this to come. And I hope this video kind of spurred some ideas for, one, what it is that you could do with this phone, and two, also how it is that you could use it to spruce up some of your filmmaking or your daily vlogging or whatever kind of content it is that you're creating here on the platform. Please hit me up in the comments and let me know what it is that you're able to create with the phone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I will catch you in the next video and look forward to more iPhone videos compared to a lot of other cameras. Not the ridiculous comparisons that you've seen on the web where they're compared to actual $20,000, but more buying decisions that you guys would make. So those are coming up here in the next couple of weeks, not couple of weeks, next couple of days. And I will see you next time. Peace.